عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, welcome to our weekly program, Got Questions? Ask Your Madam Mufti Saab, thank you so much for joining us. How are you feeling?
Alhamdulillah, better.
MashaAllah, mashallah. So the recovery time, mashallah, may Allah give you shifa and health. Uh, out of the fiqh questions, what are some of the things that you've been thinking of doing? Because you get a lot of time when you're not in the masjid and other things. Is there anything specific that comes to mind? Sometimes, that the free moments give you some times to think.
Uh, not specifically a certain subject, but just everything in general.
Focusing on everything, huh?
Focusing on everything. One thing is, one thing has been on my mind. It's the need for courses and seminars and workshops for communities.
Mm.
That's been on my mind for a few
Mm.
weeks.
No, it would be amazing, especially what you said with your presence at Selden. Your Stony Brook is not very far from you, right? And there are a lot of college students there too.
Yeah,
So if there's something structured for those students, maybe even those who are dorming or those who come there to study, it could be amazing that they can slowly enhance in their Islamic studies along with the time that they're spending, at the college.
yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, this would be amazing. Maybe create a track for 1 year or 2 year or something like that, where the students are really, growing. And I really feel, Musab, that our entire Northeast is very dry when it comes to academic studies, ilmi stuff.
Yeah,
There are beyonds and Jummah stuff that goes on. That's great, but something that really grows an individual in regards to ilm and Islamic academia, it's less, man.
you're right. You're right. It definitely needs work. Needs young guys.
Mm. Musab, I'm just looking at some of the questions that has come in. Okay. Musab, what the question that has come in is with regards to Isha Salah. A young person, brother, asked a question and said, "Does your Salah become qada after 12 at night, or can a person pray Isha till Fajr has not started?" Um, I think it's like a desi norm that after midnight salah is qaza and stuff. So, could you just elaborate? Of course, praying on time is the most important thing, but anything specific that's fiqh related to it.
Yeah. So praying every salah with jama'ah is preferred. Praying it with jama'ah inside the masjid is the best. There's nothing better than that. But in a situation where someone cannot pray with jama'ah inside the masjid and they cannot even pray in congregation with a few people, in that kind of situation, um, it is allowed to pray Isha all the way until Fajr, but to delay Isha until the last third of the night is makruh. Praying the last third of the night would be known as uh, you can do the math. The night of the Islamic night starts from Maghrib prayer. So from Maghrib prayer all the way till Fajr, you're going to divide that into three portions. The time, the last third of that time, it's makruh to delay it unless you have an excuse, obviously. In that kind of situation, it's not an issue. But in a situation where you don't have an excuse, for example, uh, you just come home one day, you're dead tired, and you just fall asleep on the couch, and then you wake up 2 hour or like an hour before Fajr. In that kind of situation, it's okay. You get up, you pray your Isha, and then you pray your Fajr. That's not a problem. But in a situation where you don't have an excuse and there's no reason to delay it, you should pray before the last third of the night.
Mm. Jazakallah khairan. So, and then when the whole concept of qada and stuff like that, it's not that after
Midnight.
midnight you
No,
would have to make half salah or something like that. That's these
no,
are
no,
all.
no. There's no such thing as that. That is a made up thing. It's most likely it's cultural.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti Sahab.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, good, good.
Alhamdulillah. The Mufti Abdullah Sahab wants to say something. He has a smile on his face, but just holding it back.
Oh, so what's up, man?
Alhamdulillah, good.
MashaAllah. Good to see you, man.
Uh,
Likewise.
Good to see you. You've been quite happy since after you got married, MashaAllah.
don't allow me to share those pictures. But post your weddings too.
Huh?
All those happy pictures are yours. You couldn't stop smiling for months.
Yo.
Those Saruru Shahrans went to many shahrs.
غرور دهر.
That Umumu Darin is now hitting finally.
Yeah, غموض. Yeah.
Astaghfirullah. May Allah bless you and all of us. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, so another question that has come. We're just talking about the qada salah of Isha. Some people who question and say that if you don't pray until 12 o'clock at night, does the salah become qaza and can you make it till Fajr? So Mufti Abdullah Sab, alhamdulillah, just answer that question for
Oh,
us.
along the lines of that question, there is another point to be mentioned. There's no such thing as a specific amount of time when it comes to the prayers. For example, this is one example right here. 12 o'clock midnight is a specific time, is a specific time or a specific amount of time. There's no such thing as that when calculating the prayers. Another example of that would be some people say that after Maghrib Salah, if you wait 1 hour and 15 minutes or 1 hour 30 minutes, then you can pray Isha Salah. So that is a set amount of time. There's no such thing as that.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. Did you guys hear that before?
I've heard it from people generally, but nothing in the books.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually the case. It's usually the case about an hour and a half after Maghrib, an hour and 15 minutes after Maghrib. It's not exactly, but uh, I would say don't use that as a standard. Just go by the schedule. We have schedules nowadays. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Musab, there was a question that had been floating to all of our messages a few weeks ago with regards to becoming a musafir as when you travel from your town. I
Mm.
also received that question as well. Uh, but was there any specific answer to that? Meaning, musafir for New York City and for five boroughs, meaning Nassau and Suffolk County. Would that be a different situation for residents of the suburbs and the city?
Um, I think the question that was going around was in regards, or the question itself wasn't worded correctly, or I didn't
Yeah.
understand it correctly.
Hmm.
The question it stated that when do you start counting? So that you start counting from wherever you started your journey. So if you started from your house, then from the door of your house you would start counting, and the total will be once the end of the destination, or the end of the counting would be once you reach your destination. But I think the question was more towards, would you be a musafir if you left New York City and went to Long Island, for example, somewhere deep in, what part, all that would, again, I think we've discussed this previously. I don't think we can just make a comment and pass the thing. We would actually have to see,
Correct.
better that we get a good amount of the scholars of New York to decide what is the judicial or jurisdictional outlines of New York City. Because what exactly is a city here? Is it just simply Astoria? Is Astoria itself a city, or is it Queens, or is the entire New York City a city? It's complicated. We live in New York City, which is quite complicated.
Hmm.
Yeah. People in New York City are a little bit
Because
complicated.
the word city applies to Astoria, meaning in a literal term, but it may not necessarily apply from a fiqh perspective because we don't have our own separate government or our separate police station, any of that. That's more of a Queens thing, or even sometimes New York City. But then New York City itself would have certain things that are different. We do have our own president, as opposed to Manhattan. So it's something
But
I think
sorry, go ahead.
it's something the scholars would have to sit, scholars of New York, and decide on that.
Mufti Abdullah, your screen just froze. Mufti Abdullah, okay, we can't, yeah, your screen just froze.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. My Wi-Fi or something like that. Yeah, so I was saying that why haven't the scholars of New York City actually discussed this yet? It's kind of
I
weird.
think there has been previous discussions where some of the previous boards has sat down and they classified the five boroughs as one jurisdiction, where they said they had one mayor of the five boroughs, and then um, they had one supreme court for the entire five boroughs, and then they had this one police chief, even though in the books there are different zip codes to so many of that. So I, I think this was many years ago, about more than a decade ago, where the conversation had taken place, where NASA and Suffolk County both were considered to be their own jurisdiction, where because each of them have their own mayors or county executives, and each of them have their own supreme or the major court systems itself. And even though Long Island is sort of complicated, we have one police chief, but then there are sub villages have their own commissioners and chiefs as well, right? So that sort of makes it a little bit more complicated. I'm not sure if there has been anything recently done. Previously, it was like the five boroughs being one, and then the two suburbs, Nassau and Suffolk itself, being one each. Wallahu
Where
alam.
where would this ikhtilaf have an effect?
Meaning, for example, when you're traveling, right? So where do we count as the hudud of your safar? Meaning, of course, you start traveling from your home and you start counting. But if I travel towards Suffolk, or if I go to Riverhead and I go more than 48 miles from my house, that's about 70 some miles. Do I become a musafir or not?
You would in every situation anyway, right? Is there
What
a situation where you would not become musafir?
I,
If you're traveling 70 miles, you've left your
But
you left
if you
the
regard all that to be one city or one place, then you wouldn't be musafir. Another place where this would apply is when you're returning back from a travel now. For
mm,
example, when I'm returning back from Pennsylvania or something, do I stop making qasr as soon as I enter New York
mm.
City,
When
or
you start
Queens,
doing
or
qasr and
Australia?
when you stop, basically.
yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so if you're traveling from JFK all the way to what's on top of Manhattan, is that's Bronx, right? No, where's I don't even know, man. I don't even know my
So, so, so,
geography.
so a question that usually is that, for example, me being a resident of Nassau County, if I'm planning to travel more than 48 miles and I leave my home and I go to JFK to take a flight, JFK itself is in five boroughs. Do I become a musafir as soon as I enter a separate, jurisdiction? I have not crossed more than 48 miles yet, but my niya intention is to fly out from there for more than 48 miles, right?
Mm.
That's another issue of contention regarding JFK itself, because does that really fall under international grounds, or is it part of New York State? There is something on that.
What's the ruling, bro? I gotta make salat tomorrow.
Where are you going tomorrow?
Oh, not tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh-huh. Inshallah, we're going to Ijtima in Malaysia.
really?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, khair. Mufti Sab, so usually what's the current rulings of JFK? Meaning it people for the five boroughs, because it is a part of considered to be a part of Queens, I guess, right? JFK, I'm not sure legally, but according to directions and maps, it seems it's Queens.
Sure, it's part of Queens in that sense.
Queens. Yeah. So what about the residents of out of the five boroughs? I guess then it still comes back to the same question: is where do you draw the lines of the jurisdiction, right?
Yeah, so I don't think we can decide. We should sit more with others and decide that.
Hmm. We got to call up a meeting on that, brothers,
Yeah.
soon. That's interesting though. Jazakallah khair. Rahim Afghan says Assalamu alaikum. Brother Danny Sheikh says Assalamu alaikum. Brother Abdul Khan says Assalamu alaikum. How do you give zakat on gold? My sisters individually have their own gold but does not have the nisab to give zakat. Do they have to put their gold together and give zakat, or do they give zakat individually?
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Zakat eligibility and liability is considered on a personal basis, on a personal capacity. So each and every single person's assets will be calculated individually. This applies to siblings. This applies to husband and wife, parents and children. The husband and the wife's wealth will not be combined together to calculate zakat. The husband's wealth will be calculated and analyzed separately. The wife's zakat will be calculated separately as well. So similarly, in this case, each sister's wealth or gold, not just gold. So many of us think it's just gold, but it's not gold, but all zakatable assets, including any form of cash that you may have, or bank balance, or cryptocurrencies, investments, all that is zakatable. So you would calculate and add all that together on an individual basis, and if it reaches the nisab amount, if it exceeds the nisab amount, then you'll pay zakat. If it's less than the nisab amount, then you won't pay zakat. So in the inquired situation, you're not going to combine the zakatable assets of all these sisters, but rather each of them will consider it separately. And again, it's not just the gold, but all cash, including savings, spare change that might be lying around, investments, all this is zakatable and would be included with the gold.
Jazakallah khair, Mufti Sahib, for that clarification, because a lot of time in the cultural aspect, it's the famous 7.5 tola of gold, Sade Sat Tole Sona, right? And if someone doesn't meet the criteria of the 7.5 tola of gold, and if even if it's 5 tolas or 6 tolas, people tend to not give zakat, even though other assets do add up to be more than the amount of the entire gold added together, meaning the price together. So Jazakallah khairan for that clarification, that it's just not have to only be the gold itself, it has to be other valuable assets that have to be gathered together to make sure that you fit in the criteria itself. Musab, does the Darul Ifta website yourself provide that number yet or no, of zakat?
No.
Okay.
Nisab can be found on Darul Fiqh's website. I believe it's updated regularly.
Darul Fiqh's website. Mufti Faraz Sahib?
Yes.
Okay. And it gives the option of both the gold and silver.
Yes.
Okay. And I think we have talked about the gold and the silver nisab multiple times, so there is no need to go back to that. But Jazakallah khairan for that clarification. Alhamdulillah. Okay, what else do we have? Mufti Abdullah Sahib, you got any new questions, man?
No, we had a program last week in Masjid Bilal. We received hundreds of questions, man. A lot of questions.
MashaAllah.
We couldn't go through all of them, but we did receive a few very, very interesting questions, such as I'm not sure how relative this question is to the live stream, but one question was, can you speak to someone before you plan to marry them, for example? That's a question.
That's a question. Why did you say, for example, at the end?
Oh, because that's just one question that we got.
Okay. That's kind of okay. So before we get to the marriage questions, my mom wants to know if it is okay to pray the sajda tilawat while sitting, or does she have to get up for each one? The reason being, she does them all at once after finishing the Quran and never had the chance to make them up before.
You don't have to get up between each sajda tilawa. You can just do them all in one shot without getting up.
And Mufti Sahib, would every takbir or every time that a person does sajda, is there anything that they would have to, meaning they don't have to do salam on any side? Meaning
No.
that there's only with the takbir that you go down to sajda,
Correct.
and then you would recite the tasbih?
Yes, the 3 tasbihat or however many tasbihat you want to do, minimum 3, and then that's your sajda is complete once you get up. Then you do the next one, then you get up, then you do the next one. So each time you go into sajda saying takbir, Allahu Akbar, doing minimum 3 tasbihat and getting up, that completes your sajda. You do not have to stand up, you do not have to read at-tahiyat, you do not have to do salam, you don't do any of that.
Is the second takbir also mandatory to get up after the tasbihat, or the sajda tilawat will be complete?
I mean, if you're still in sajda, you haven't completed your sajda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Completion. I think completion. You complete something once you've like came out of it.
So you would say the second takbir as well?
Yeah, you get up from the sajda, Allahu Akbar. That's it.
Okay. And then there's no particular salam to that.
Yeah. Whether the
In
second
this,
takbir itself is necessary, I'm not exactly sure.
Mufti
But
Muaz was
getting
going
up,
to say something.
yeah, getting up from your sajda completes your sajda.
Oh, okay.
in the sajda itself, while you can recite Subhana Rabbi al-A'la 3 times or whatever amount, it is better that you recite the Masnoon dua that's been narrated from Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. سجد وجهي للذي خلق وشق سمعه وبصره بحوله وقوته فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين. There are a few other du'as that are also narrated. You can recite any of those. But in the event that you don't know them, then you can suffice on Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. But you should still make an effort to learn these du'as that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us.
Jazakumullah khair, Jazakumullah khair. And that and these dua and multiple of these dua could be recited if someone knows multiple dua.
Sure.
Okay. Jazakumullah khair, Mufti Sahab. Do you want to take that marriage question or no? We'll defer that to the group that was asked, inshallah.
Ah,
They'll better answer it, inshallah. They'll better answer it, inshallah.
that's funny.
Complete haram fatwas on it.
Oh man.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khairan. Again, thank you so much, Mufti Sahab, Mufti Sahab, Mufti Sahab, for your time, for your efforts, for your ilm, for your wisdom. You're truly a blessings to all of us and the entire community. May Allah preserve you guys and keep you away from all nadar and evil. And I'd like to know the answer. What is that to that? The answer to that. Like I like to know the answer to that. मुफ्ती अब्दुल्ला साहब आपका सवाल दोबारा रिपीट कीजिए. You gotta repeat your सवाल again.
The question was, what was it? Can you get to know someone before you get married to them? That was just the question. You can go into explanation, obviously. Um,
But
leave that for you. If you guys don't want to,
what defines get to know?
yeah, that's the thing. So there's explanation to that, right?
Now Mufti Muasir can answer these questions. So let's look for his expertise.
We'll leave that to you guys for now.
Yeah, you guys are just playing. What is it? What is that game where you pass around something? Hot potato.
Hard potato. मुफ्ती अब्दुल्ला साहब आप क्या फरमाते हैं? क्या उलमा किराम क्या फरमाते
Uh, yeah, I mean, what is get to know? I think another question related to that one was, can you speak to someone before you get married to them? So I think that is a better question than can you get to know someone. Getting to know someone, usually how it's usually done is they date for a few months or a few weeks, and then they get to know each other, quote unquote. But before I answer that question, I'm just gonna pose another question to the audience: is that what is the famous known divorce rate in America? You guys know, right? It's about how many percent? It's about 50%. So half of marriages in America lead up.
It's like a hit and miss.
Huh? Yeah, literally.
Hit and miss.
So half of marriages in America lead to divorce. 50%. Yeah, it's a well-known percentage. So my question, it's a rhetorical question, is that if getting to know someone was the answer, why do marriages end? 50% of marriages in America end up in divorce. क्या है?
बिल्कुल सही फरमाया. बहुत तदब्बुर से.
So I think the better question would be, can you speak to someone before getting married to them? And the answer to that is you can, with some conditions. The condition is you don't speak to them alone, obviously. Preferably you speak with them with one of their woodies present. If you just even if they're not in the same room but they're a little further away, they know that you're speaking, and it's a scheduled meeting. And I mean, it should be something like that. I know a lot of people that have done that, where they got to know the other person, their potential spouse. They spoke, they established whether they're compatible or incompatible, and then they went on to see whether they wanted to get married or not. In that kind of situation where someone else is present, it is sorry, I think, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's your So your signals are maybe
I'm lagging, huh?
you're lagging. You're slacking and lagging.
Yeah, I'm supposed to get
You're supposed to get what, 5G?
no, I'm supposed to get a new router in the mail any day now.
Okay.
I think my router is
Okay, that's the issue. No worries, Mufti Sahib. Maybe we'll take it next time.
yeah.
That's fine. The screen is not coming. Inshallah, I think the brother's question, I think he asked again, was that I just wanted to know if there's any prohibition on talking, for example, over text messages.
Next week, inshallah.
Let's take it next week, inshallah. Until your router is here too, inshallah. Barakallah. Brothers and sisters, thank you so much for joining us. May Allah bless you, reward you, grant you the best of this world. We have two questions lined up. Inshallah, we'll take care of them. But the Danese question has not been completely answered. We'll take care of that as well. And Brother Asif Lukman asked a question that's also going to be an Abdul Khan as well. So we'll take care of all of these questions next week. May Allah bless you, reward you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.